Now that the market has shifted a bit, it has been quite some time since buyers have had the luxury of going to open houses. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about the things that you should look at every time at every house whenever you're going to open houses. I'm Tiffany Weber. I'm a real estate attorney in Mooresville, North Carolina. So these are the things that if I only had 15 or 20 minutes at a house, these are the things that I would make sure that I would not skip. But we will have a full checklist and a link in the description so that you can see what we would recommend that you check every time at every house. All right, first, the practical things. I would recommend taking a physical copy of the listing and the disclosures. If you don't want to print out or you can't have a printer, have it available on your phone so that you can scroll through, but have access to the listing and the disclosures. Also the survey, if it's available. It can be important to know where the property lines are. If there's not a survey and you decide to go under contract, every attorney in the state is going to tell you to get a survey, but it's very, very helpful if there is a survey available that you have it accessible to you during the open house while you're walking through. Next, and I alluded to this already, does your cell phone have service? If you're going to be living at this house, you're going to need service. Or if you don't have service, are you willing to switch to a different carrier that has better service? It happens more often than you would think that a buyer closes on a property, they move in and they realize, oh gosh, our reception is terrible here. So they have to switch carriers. If you're not willing to switch carriers, then maybe you need to look at a different property that has better service for you. Another thing to consider is there adequate privacy? Now, this is subjective. So it's what is adequate for you. You may not care if you can see your neighbor's house. A lot of, what people may call cookie cutter neighborhoods or, standard subdivisions have houses that are kind of close together, and that might not bother you, or you may want a lot of privacy. So you're going to be wanting to make sure that the privacy is sufficient for your standards. Now, this next thing may not apply at every house, but it's on the checklist because it could apply, and you want to make sure that you're considering this. It's the location of the fence. And if you have a copy of the survey, it's even better because you can compare the location of the fence to the survey, or you could look at the stakes in the ground and figure out, all right, is my fence on the correct property or not? And if for some reason you notice that the fence is on the neighboring property, you can ask then and there, is there an encroachment agreement in place, or how has this been resolved? Because a fence not being on the right side of the property line can be a title issue. And if you can figure that issue out before you ever go under contract, you could save yourself a lot of headache, or you could plan in advance for how to resolve the issue before closing. The next thing that you should be considering while you're looking around is there adequate storage space? Again, that's subjective to what you decide is adequate, but you're going to want to make sure that you have enough storage for the things that you own or want to own. Let's say that your family is growing. Maybe there's enough storage for you and the people that are already in your family, but once you add another person to the mix, there's not going to be enough. You need to think about that. And you might be thinking, well, obviously I'm going to check if there's adequate storage space. You would be surprised at whenever you're in the midst of checking out a house, how quickly you can forget, oh, I wanted to do that thing, or I wanted to check that thing. So this is one thing that I would make sure I did not miss at any property that I was viewing, is adequate storage space. All right, and the last two things are more on the legal side. And this list that I'm telling you, of course, is not all inclusive. There's so many more things that you need to check out. That's why I go to the link in the description, review what we recommend that you check out every time at every property. But from a legal perspective, one, what are the restrictions on the property? You might be viewing a house that's not in an HOA and you're thinking you hit the jackpot. You can do whatever you want with the property, and that's not the case. Most properties have restrictions, HOA or not. So you should always check the restrictions and HOA documents, if any, to make sure that you can do with the property what you want to do. If you want to have chickens and the restrictions say you can't, then really, what's the point in even going to look at the house? Also, do you want a pool? Do you want to add on? You're going to need to consider if you have the ability to do so. So you may go look at a house that you think is great, but you're wondering, oh, if I wanted to add on a bedroom, can I? You may look at the lot and say, this is a big lot and we've got plenty of space to do it. It's not just the size of the lot that matters, it's the location of the septic, and also what number of bedrooms the septic has been permitted for. So if the septic only allows you to have 3 bedrooms and you want to add on a 4th or 5th bedroom, that's not going to work. Doesn't matter how big your lot is, it goes by the septic permit. Also, if you see a big backyard and you're like, great, we could put a pool there. What if the septic is located right there in the middle of the backyard and there's nowhere to put a pool? So you'll want to consider all of those things while you are at the open house. And that way, if you can't do the things that you want to do with the property in the future, you haven't wasted your time putting in an offer or potentially losing non-refundable money after going under contract. So those are the things that I would do every time at every property if I only had a limited time. If I have a lot of time, then I'm going to want to do as many of those things on the checklist that's in the description as possible. Hopefully this helped you as you start checking out open houses and looking for your property. Again, I'm Tiffany Weber, real estate attorney at Thomas & Weber in North Carolina, and I will see you in the next video.